Hi, this is Denise Matthew. I hope you're doing well. Back again for another week of the transits and a few things happening this week. We have the big transit where Venus is going to make a full channel with Pluto. So I'll talk about that. Tomorrow we're having a new moon and I'll briefly talk about that as well. We continue to do the mandala of life. If you want to jump on, I'm doing daily updates as I always have been on the community page. And I'm also on Instagram now too. I do a few updates there as well, just talking about the transits and what to expect. I hope everybody's doing well. And thank you so much for being here. And let's get into it. I'm recording this on April 10th. So tomorrow we're going to have the new moon. I think the interesting thing about this new moon is that it is in the gate 42. So we have the sun and the moon. A new moon is always when the sun and the moon come together. And so they're going to both be in the same gate. And that would be 42, line 2. And I think it's kind of interesting how it is in the gate of closing. So a new moon in the gate of closing. So when we talk about the gate 42, we are talking about this idea that it is a cyclical nature and that it comes in after the gate 53, start at something. And then what it does is it brings it to maturity. It does everything it can to improve that plant or seed or whatever has been planted. So what it does is it brings it to maturity. It does whatever it can, and then if it can't do anything more, then it would bring it to a close. So when we look at a new moon coming in the gate of the closer or increase, the other thing it can do is come in and sort of get a new cycle. So you have reached a level of maturity and then you move into this new energy. It's almost like you have a reboot of your, like, so for instance, if you're in a relationship and you have a relationship that's been going pretty good, and then suddenly you sort of reach a different level in that relationship and it begins something new. So this would be the closer, increasing that relationship, bringing it to another level of maturity, because I think that all cycles can come to an end, but then a new cycle can begin. So for instance, if you have been going to counseling for a while and suddenly you stop counseling and then you're working with the new things that you've learned and you're really trying to put a lot of effort into a relationship that may have been rocky before, you are starting a new cycle, but it is closing an old cycle of something that was. So for instance, you had an unhealthy relationship and now you're starting to have a more healthy relationship. And so these cycles can continue to happen over and again. And with the sun is always going to come around this time of the year to close up something that was started. So if we're looking at when this cycle might have started, it would have been between July 7th and 12th, 2020. So this cycle might be coming to an end. So it could be like a relationship or a project or something like a job you were doing and it's closing, or maybe you are cycling into a new part of your job or cycling into a new part of your relationship or something like that, or you are closing it out altogether. It all is leading to a new beginning, which is always what we're going to get when we have a new moon. So it's going to set the pace for the next 2 weeks of this new cycle and the beginnings of something new. And what we also have happening is we have Venus, which has moved faster. It's moved ahead of the sun. So it's actually touching all the gates that the sun will eventually touch. So now Venus is in the gate 3 and it's making this new channel between Pluto and Venus. We'll have Mercury going through the gate 3 and we will also have the sun going through the gate 3 in the next couple of weeks. So we're going to have some energy to this potential for mutation. So when we're talking about the 360 and Pluto, we are talking about this energy of a format energy. And I talked a lot about the format energies in the last video that I just made on the gate 42, because that is one of the 3 format channels. So the one thing about the formats is that we do not have any tribal energy. The tribal energy has its own way of being. So we have an abstract format, we have a logical format, and we also have a mutation. So what we have is a spark of mutation, which is a pulse on and a pulse off, which is all about this mutative energy that's going to be coming about. Now, we haven't had Pluto in the gate 60 since 1776. So it is a big transit for it to change over and to re-enter that gate after so many years. This is setting up a mutation or spark of energy, a spark of mutation, because that's how this mutation comes. It comes in a pulse. It is a format energy, and it is an energy that is going to send a pulse through all individual energy, because that's how formats work. They always always send some pulse, or for instance, the 4253, it's a cycle. And the other one, the 952, is related to concentration and focus. So that's how these formats work. And they sort of set the frequency for the whole circuit of the energy. The interesting thing about the 360 is that because it is an individual energy, we always know that there is going to be some level of melancholy in this. When Ra Uru talked about the 360, he did talk about a transit that happened in 1998 off and on, and it was between Neptune, which was in the gate 60, and also Saturn, which was in the gate 3. So what it did was all the children born in that time period when the 360 was in play are a new generation of people who would be in their 20s now. This new generation were going to be the ones that had a level of a mutation that was going to have some play in 2027. So this 360 channel really does play into the whole 2027 idea of new beginnings and new sort of genetic material being introduced into the collective at that point. And so it's interesting because he also said is that when the 360 children came into the world, what they brought with them was this level of this mutation, but with the mutation comes this level of melancholy. So with the 360 could all definitely have this level of melancholy, but with it we also have this creative energy as well. So a level of creativity entered with this new generation, as well as the melancholy. And if, as a parent, one of these children, or if you are one of the somebody who has a 360 energy, it's something to keep in mind that there can be this level of melancholy in this expectation and waiting for something to happen. But if you can understand that that is part of who you are and sort of channel that melancholy into something that makes you feel good and you feel like it's a creative expression of yourself, that will help with this energy. Because otherwise there could be this question of, why do I feel this way? And I've talked about this quite a bit. It's all about channeling the energy. So what's happening is anybody who has this 360 channel is having an activation of this channel because of these transits. So that's something to keep in mind. And again, this is a generational energy because it's between Neptune and Saturn. So it is sort of activating something that would be, that we could say that we don't know what it's going to look like, only that it is being activated. It might start a creative spark that we don't know exactly how it's all going to play out until sort of more into the future, because at the end of the day, Pluto moves extremely slowly, and it is going to go in and out of the gate 60, and it will actually become a channel more than just for the next couple of weeks. That'll happen again. There'll be other planets that are going to make the channel as well. So I'll talk about that as we go through, but I just wanted to mention that was something I thought was quite interesting, how it was like a whole generation, young adults now, who have this energy, who are adding to the collective energy with this 360, bringing the mutation as well as the creativity for something new into 2027 and even before, even now. That's what's happening with the new moon. Now, right now we have the sun in the gate 42. I did talk a little bit about the gate 42 last week because Venus went into the gate 42. As I said, Venus is sort of scooting ahead of the sun, and it's touching all those planets before. So the thing about the gate 42 is like I said, it is an ending of cycle, and it is also this idea of cycling something out to cycle something in type of thing. If you have the gate 53, is specifically designed to have the energy to start something, but not necessarily continue to work with that energy, and instead to allow somebody else to come in and close the energy, or to increase that particular thing that's been planted. So you start a project. So the gate 53 would be someone who was a project. You came in and you started a project, and then the gate 42, somebody with that energy would come in and continue to work with that energy and to continue to maximize the potential of what you can get with the gate 42. The thing about the gate 42 is it is part of the format energy, and it is part of a cycle of the 5342. It is abstract energy, and it is basically whenever you have anything that is abstract in nature or experiential in nature. So that would be any of the whole circuit. So you talk about the 5342, you would talk about the 4130, you would talk about the 3536, or you would also talk about the 6447, the 1333, and also the 4929. any of those energies, and I might have forgotten one, and if I did, I apologize, but any of those energies, when you have one half of the channel or the full channel of the 5342 will all be cyclical in nature. And even if you don't have any of this energy, there's a potential that you live with somebody who has this energy, or there's potential that you work with somebody with this energy. And so you could have the cycles within the experiential energy that you have. So for instance, in my house, so I don't actually have the any of the energy of the format 4253, but I do have experiential energy. So what that says is that I am being influenced by cycles, because in my family I have the whole channel of people that are in my aura that would be affecting the way my experiential energy is working, and it would cycle through type of thing. And I have noticed this before, because when I actually designed the cards that I use every week just to talk about the transits, I actually started on a 53, which is the initiating part of the format energy, and I did complete it sort of around the 42 energy. There was no plan. This was just something that completely happened on its own. So you may notice that cycles play a big part in your life, and I think that for most of us, I mean, anybody who's into astrology, that they'll see that cycles are part of the way things are. But then for some people, the cycles are way more defined or part of your life. So if you have this energy, the 42 or the 53, or you have somebody that you live with any of this energy, you might notice that you have a very cyclical nature of how life works for you. The thing about the 42 and the 53 and the whole channel or hanging gate is that even if you have a hanging gate, there will always be some level of electromagnetics that you'll get. One is that you can have a planetary transit. So for instance, right now, the sun is going through the gate 42. So anybody has the gate 53 could be closing a lot of projects, or closing cycles, or maybe, like I said, cycling into something new, in working on a project that you started. Maybe you started something a while ago and you really haven't had the ability or energy to go back to it. And suddenly you have the 42 being transited by the sun, and then you go back to that project and you start to grow it, or you decide what you want to do with it, as opposed to just leaving it and knowing it's there. The thing about this energy is that you can sometimes think that you're a bit of a quitter if you have the 53, but the 42 perspective is that you may have trouble sort of starting things, because it feels like I just don't have the energy. I have these ideas, but actually to get them into play can be difficult. So that's why watching the planetary transits when you have the cycle is very helpful for this, because it will give you that push that you need to be able to start those things that you want to, or to finish those things that you want to, wherever you stand in it. The other thing is that with the cyclical nature of this energy, it is that it's almost like a program and a cycle that once you get on that program, or once you get on that cycle, it's hard to cycle out. So it's like when you pick something that you're going to do, it's best to pick something that is going to be something that you really have gone into correctly. If you have the whole channel, the 4253, you're always going to be a generator, because that's between the root and the in the sacral center. So you're always going to be a generator. So it's always going to be in response that you will get into a new cycle or start a new cycle. And if you have the hanging gate, you are still going to be responding as any other type, even as like if somebody with an open sacral. So say you're a manifester, there's always going to be the electromagnetic, which will start the cycle, and you are responding, but you are responding in a way that you are first using your particular strategy and authority, as well as the response as well. So that's how it works with this energy. So for instance, if you're a manifester and you are responding to a cycle, you would inform, and then you can go about your business. That's the way it would be entered correctly. And you could do it any way you like. You don't have to do it that way. But the whole theory behind it, entering it correctly, is that if you do, you have more chance of having the energy to continue through and finish that whole cycle. Whereas if you maybe kind of don't enter into it correctly, or for instance, maybe your emotional authority and you just jump in and you don't actually allow yourself to go through your emotional wave, and you just jump into a new cycle, and you're sort of stuck in that cycle and you're not enjoying it, but you know that you kind of have to see it through. And then if you quit, that can sometimes even make you feel even more upset with it, because it's almost like the whole point of experiential energy is to get a result or to get through it, to finish it off, and then you have something to sort of reflect on, to sort of talk to, because that's the whole point of experiential energy. It's about the experience, it's about the memory that you get from it, it's about the journey and the recollection, and the concretizing of the information so that other people can use it in the future. And that's why we talk about the whole spiral of life, where we are always building as a collective on the information that we have, and each generation has a benefit that previous generations that have sort of put that energy into making sure that the other people can share what they are sharing. I mean, you have the whole internet at this point where everything's on the internet. So that's why we are advancing much faster than before, because it's so accessible. Everybody can get the information that they need. Most people, I mean, there are probably places that internet isn't as accessible, but for many parts of the world, the internet is accessible. And that's where you can get all this information, logical or experiential, and then it can sort of further you along your process, so you don't have to learn that part of it. So because in the old days you never really get to the same place, because you're always going backtracking. It reminds me of a course that I once took back in years ago when I was finishing off my degree. I had actually not taken calculus in university, but then I took a course that required calculus, and I didn't have that basis. It was derivatives course or something like that, and I hadn't taken calculus. So here I was trying to learn calculus and trying to learn derivatives, and you can imagine it was not easy. Yes, I did get through it, but it was really hard because there was no foundation. Now, if I had had that foundation of the calculus already, then it's like you build on that foundation, and then it just becomes an easier thing. And that's the whole point of this energy, why we share the experiences and why we share the experiential energy at all. April 16th, we have the sun moving into the gate 3. So the Venus is going to be moving out, and then the sun is going to move in, and then it will make a full channel, the 360, with Pluto as well. So when we're talking about the gate 3, we are talking about a mutative energy. We are talking about, like I said, a spark that comes and it goes. It is a pulse energy. Anything with the individual energy is going to be a pulse. It's either on or it's off. In between is the time when you're wondering, am I going to get an inspiration? Am I going to get a download? Is there something going to come that is going to be different or brand new? Because there is that level of expectation with this energy as well. Especially with a hanging gate 3, it can really be this idea of that waiting and expecting something to show up, because it is all about this new seed, this new something that you're going to grow. Gate 3 can be called difficult beginnings as well. And it really talks to the idea that in order for something to show up, all the things need to be perfectly correct for it. You can't make something happen if it's not meant to happen. And I think that that is one of the most important things to remember about the energy of any mutation. It doesn't come because you will it to come. It comes because it's meant to come at that particular time. And I think that if we can understand that there is a level of surrender with all individual energy, and I think a level of surrender with all energy in general, that things we can't force things to happen based on what we want in the moment. It is all about timing being right. And if we see that things are moving in a certain direction, we can certainly move toward it to sort of further it along. But when it comes to the energy of the gate 3, everything needs to be correct for it to actually work. So for instance, you see this seed and it's growing out of sort of a board. Well, the seed needed to have water, it needed to have sunlight, it needed to have all those things, and a little hole that it could actually push its stem through. And all those things had to happen before it was able to sprout. It's all about the universe saying, this is going to happen when all things are right, but you won't know when all the ingredients are there, other than being open in those times of expectation and potentially melancholy, to direct that energy, that melancholy, into something creative, something that you're sort of driving your creativity. Whenever you have, especially the 360 energy, it is really important to find something creative to express yourself through, to whatever that is. And I've talked about this many times. It's an energy to it could be sports, it could be yoga, it could be the standard creative things, writing or painting or working with clay or something like that. It can be any of those things, but it really is something that makes you feel like you want to direct your energy, that when you're doing it, you kind of get lost doing it because you sort of time becomes part of an outside energy that is not really something that you're even thinking about anymore because you're so lost in doing whatever that is. Sometimes that's hard to find, but I think that, if you have a lot of the experiential energy of that we talked about, that begin with the 4253, as well as this mutative energy, it's to try a lot of different experiences. And I think that the most important thing to always remember is that we are all a combination of all little different parts of who make us who we are. The whole point of human design is to understand that there is no cookie cutter explanation for everybody that says, well, you are this, this, and this. Now, there are people who out in the world of human design that will say that if you are this, then you need to do this, this, and this. And I'm going to say that I don't agree with that. I think that basically, especially with this gate, is to thy own self be true. You have to know who you are. And when you know who you are, you can say, yes, this works for me. And no, this doesn't work for me. You look at diets, for instance, someone will go out and lose a bunch of weight and everybody will say, oh, wow, you look great. How did you lose it? And they'll say, well, I did, I don't know, this keto diet or something. And for that particular person, that was perfect, right? You go and you try the keto diet, you can't cope with it. You don't feel good. It makes you feel all the things that they said they didn't have. They felt energy. They felt, like they could go out and do a run or whatever, but you feel completely opposite. Well, that says that it's not for you because you are completely different than them. And I think that if we could see ourselves as who we are, as opposed to trying to like kind of fit ourselves in a mold, what I'm trying to say is that just do what feels good for you. And then people can have opinions, people can have suggestions, but ultimately you can try it out. If it fits for you, then it fits for you. But it's never about conforming to other people's ideas of what you should do. It's about feeling what you feel, letting it be, and just doing what feels right for you as opposed to trying to conform. So whatever feels right for you is right. And if it flies in the face of human design or astrology or numerology or any kind of a profile that you've had done, that's fine. Be you. Just remember that creativity and sort of expressing yourself and directing that energy outside of yourself, and as opposed to bottling it up, because that's why we get into these stages of melancholy becomes something a lot more difficult to work with and a lot more serious for us. It can even turn into something like depression. And so that's why if we can work with this energy, keep it flowing and understand who we are and what we need to make ourselves feel better, it all works better for us. Right now, the Earth is in the gate 32. This is tribal energy. This is always talking about some level of resources, because anything that is tribal, there is all this level of what do we need to be able to survive as humans, to be able the most mundane things that we need. We need food, we need shelter, we need water, we need a mate. Not everybody needs all those things, but basically in order for humanity to continue, we need to have more children and we need to have a new generation, because otherwise humanity will die out. So that's what rabbits do. If we look at this image, rabbits are always sort of procreating, but the thing about it is, you look at these fluffy animals and you think, oh, they're sweet, and but they have abilities to fight off predators. They have long legs, they have teeth that can fight off predators, because the whole thing is they want to continue to move forward, to do the things that they need to do. This can be a good luck that comes with hard work. The thing about the gate 32 is that this is one of the fear gates, and as well as the gate 50. So we have some of these fear gates, and last week we had the gate 57. So when we look at the gate 32, this is about this idea that all those big dreams and ideas and things you want to do in life, you're never going to make it happen. You'll never get ahead in life. This can be about the haves and the have-nots. This can be looking at people who have an abundance of resources or a lot of money, or they have a luxurious and lavish life, and feeling that you'll never have that because that's just not in the cards for you. I'm not saying that everybody can be a billionaire, but on the other hand, we can always continue to work towards something better for ourselves, whatever that looks like. And I think that as long as we're not in the comparison game, if we are in the comparison game, comparing our old life with our present life and the advances that we made, and I think that a lot of times we don't actually look at how far we've come, accomplishments that we've made, because we're always looking into the future for the next big thing. But if we look at everything is a stepping stone, and where am I at compared to where I used to be, and seeing you may not be flying up the ladder of life, but you are taking it one rung at a time, and you are moving forward, and you are getting ahead. And that's what this is all about, endurance. And it's about staying the course and saying, yes, there are obstacles in my life, but yet I can still keep moving forward and still have those dreams. And if it doesn't show up tomorrow, well, how about reconfiguring? And there could be this idea that fear related to people taking what you have, and so you make a certain amount of money and you're scared that people are going to take it from you, and it can eventually get to the point of greed. So it is about believing in your dreams and understanding that they can take time, and it's okay to be scared and sometimes be worried that things are not going to turn out the way you are. But the reality is that there's so much in life that we have no control of, and we have no idea how it's going to turn out. So just as much as it could not turn out, it could turn out. And that's the whole thing. And there's always going to be some luck in life where all of a sudden things will shift, and you really can't point to why it did, only that it did. Try and keep that in mind and be open to what the universe gives you. If you can do that and push through that fear, and every time that voice says, oh, well, it's not never going to happen for me, just push it down and say, why wouldn't it happen for me? There's enough in the world for everybody. And I think that just because somebody else got something that you want, it doesn't mean you can't get it too. So just keep that in mind. And that's what that energy is about. So this is what we're going to receive from the world. And we're also going to be grounded in. April 16th, we have the Earth moving into the gate 50, which is all about taking care of the family. So April 16th, we also have Venus moving into, and I'll talk about a little bit more about Venus when we get there, but it is moving into the gate 27, which is half of the channel 5027. This is all about having kids, and it's kind of like the spring fever of wanting to start a family. This could be people really starting to think, yes, maybe I want to settle in and have a family. Maybe this is the time to start making my own sort of nest where I want to have children, or just to actually start to live in a place where you feel secure. And this is not the idea of the 59-6 where you're looking for a mate. This is about sort of settling into some sort of a family life, whatever that looks like for you. A lot of times there can be children related to it. This is the part of the energy that takes care of making the rules for the family and deciding, okay, this is what we do and this is not what we do. The gate 50 again is a fear gate, and this is all about letting down the people that you love the most. So this can be overcompensating for the people that you love, or this could be trying to micromanage other people's lives, or the people that you love, trying to micromanage your lives because you're so worried that they might make a mistake, and if they make a mistake then they'll have some level of pain. And so you could get into the point where you're just always trying to decide what to do for them before they even have an opportunity. Or the other perspective is there's the rebellious side of this, or you push against the system, you don't want to have anybody telling you what to do, or this idea of you're rebelling against any responsibility. You don't want to have any responsibility for anything. So there's a lot of ways that this can work, but the one way that it works the best is to understand that there will be times to be responsible for people, and then there are times to let go and let them sort of find their own way. And it's just about finding the balance in the center where you are allowing people to take care of themselves, because when you have the gate 27 as a full channel, again, this is a lot of caring and really trying to take care of people. It is all about the balance between the two. If you don't ever let people stumble, they'll never really grow. And that's the balance between the 50 and the 50-27 energy and the whole channel, and also the 50, is to understand that you have to sometimes let go so that people can sort of learn how to walk on their own. Right now we have Mercury in the gate 21. I mean, this could be like tax season and people talking about having to save for their taxes, do their taxes, because the treasurer or the control is all about the treasurer energy, where you are talking about paying for taxes and potentially saving money. And it could be that could be what you're hearing people talk about. They want to have some level of trying to rein in some control of their life or their resources or those types of things. April 12th, we have Mercury going into the gate 51. This could be hearing about things in the news and the media, because that's what it's all about. Mercury, things that kind of surprise us, things that we hadn't expected, things that sort of come out of the blue. This is stepping into the abyss, not really knowing what we're going to get, not knowing what we're going to see. This could be things happening that we just had no idea that it was going to happen, or people acting in a shocking way. People in the news acting in a way that you wouldn't have expected. This could be sort of mystical, sort of journey for mystical experiences, or a journey for something different, a journey for some level of seeing more than what you see right now. And also, there's always going to be some level of competitiveness in this energy. So there could be this talk about people competing with other people, people trying to get ahead of other people trying to do better than other people. That could be the case as well. This is all about life-changing experiences that completely recalibrate everything we thought we knew. And going into the future, we can't act the way we used to, because this new knowledge or this new experience has changed us so much that we can't ever go back to where we were. So that's the potential that we can have. On April 15th, Mercury goes into the gate 42. And again, this is going back to this closing energy. So could we see a lot of cycles ending? It's interesting because not long after Venus went into the gate 42, we had a passing of two people, Prince Philip of the UK, and also we had a passing of the rapper DMX. Both of these people. Now, I did look at Prince Philip's chart, and it is interesting that he had and Queen Elizabeth have the 42-53 as a cycle between the two of them. And so that's interesting how their lives were very connected to cycles, which makes a lot of sense. But also the concept is that he had a hanging gate 42, and he did pass when Venus did connect with his gate 42. Now, of course, Venus would have connected with his gate 42 a multitude of times in 99 years. But having said that, I thought it was a very synchronistic event where he passed just when that was actually happening. So again, gate 42, we're talking about people wanting to increase something that they already have, cycling out of jobs and cycling into something new, and those types of things, because we do have that energy of the gate 3. So we have the closing energy, but we also have the gate 3. So they're all playing in at the same time. So there's not much of a break in between ending one cycle and potentially starting something new. Right now, Venus is in the gate 42. It sounds like a lot of repetition, and it is. That you have the Sun, Venus, and Mercury kind of going through that same area, so that we're going to have a lot of those repeating themes. I would say ending of cycles for certain women, some people cycling out of relationships. Maybe we'll see some people cycling out of their careers. They don't want to do a certain career, and that will show up. April 12th, we have Venus moving into the gate 3. And again, this is a beginnings, something new, or feminine energy, or Venusian things, anything about resources. And it could be the finer things in life, new beginnings in the finer things of life. And when we talk about a gate 3, it is something like maybe there's some new ideas that they have for the finer things in life, luxuries in life, some things that people want to bring into play. And I think that with the whole pandemic thing, I think that what we will see is for the luxuries of life, or those things that we like to do to sort of just kind of relax. I would say that the big thing is going to be all about like air filtration, something where there's like a pod-like type of thing where you have your own space, where you're not sharing air with anybody, you're not sharing space with anybody. Those kind of things, I think we're going to see some really innovative and new ideas for how we can still get the things we want to get done, but still also have that ability to not be concerned that potentially getting sick. April 16th, we get into the gate 27, which I said is all about caring. There are a lot of people, I'm sure, with this energy as frontline workers who are out there trying to take care of people, trying to, work through the hospitals and the pandemic and all those types of things. Maybe it's going to be about just trying to find the balance between sacrificing too much as opposed to kind of keeping stuff for yourself. Because the thing about the gate 27 is there can be this way of sacrificing so much of who you are that you kind of get lost. And this could be like where people are starting to realize that maybe we have sacrificed too much, or as individuals, and maybe we need to start pulling back. And like the thing about the gate 27 is always focused on the outside, trying to take care of other people, but maybe not necessarily taking care of the self. So maybe there could be idea that you're understanding that maybe you need to be starting to care more about yourself, and sort of understanding that you're just as important as everybody else that you're taking care of in your life. Right now, Mars is in the gate 12. And I did say that last week that that is activating the 1222 channel. So we have a full manifestation channel of the 1222, which is all about this energy of passion, creativity, bringing something new. It's a social energy. It's an individual energy. This is a creative energy that is creatively inspired to do what feels good to you. And it doesn't matter what other people think. This is about sharing mutative ideas with other people. Because the 360 is actually activated, this could be activating the 1222 too, because as soon as one is starting, you would have a pulse from the 360, which is, like I said, it has a frequency that goes out to all the other individual channels. April 21st, we have Mars going into the gate 15. And for a few days, because of the nodes, between April 20th and 22nd, we will have the full 15.5 channel. So it might be some time to actually watch the world and see what kind of humanitarian energy, because this is a full channel that is going to really push that agenda of how are people being treated. This is all about activism. This is about the love of humanity. This is about trying to get equal rights for everybody. When we have Mars in that energy, so it's going to be Mars and the South Node, it is going to be this historical idea of equality and this historical idea of activism. And we could be talking about the environment, but I just think that something could happen on the world stage between the 20th and the 22nd, where we are pushing for, there could be some level of extremism, but there is this pushing of everybody should have a right to have equal rights. And there's this level of activism, but I think that something we might notice on the world stage might show up between the 20th and 22nd. So just keep an eye on that and see how it plays out. I mean, I know we do have a big trial happening right now, and if that is when it concludes, it will be interesting to see how it plays out. Right now, Jupiter's in the gate 30. The one thing I forgot to mention with the gate 30 is that I do have a whole video about the gate 30, because the thing about the gate 41 is that it is a 4130, where I said that you had this idea, this dream of something that you want to initiate, because the 41 is the initiating codon. The gate 30 is that fire and passion to continue to move through with that. But as we know, whenever we start something new, whenever we put our energy into bringing something into the world, there could be sort of stumbling blocks or blocks along the way. And that's what we call the fates of the 30. Each particular line, based on your particular profile, talks to the way, if blocks come in your way when you are trying to get this dream off the ground, or when you're trying to make something happen in your life, if these blocks come in the way, it's all about how you work with that energy so that you can continue to push through that block and not sort of decide, okay, I'm just going to quit right now, I'm not going to continue on, it's not worth it, or those types of things. So each particular profile, and that would be related to your personality profile line, has a way of dealing with this energy or the blocks that come in our way. And if you know that that's part of who you are, it can help you sort of push through and understand, okay, this is how I do it as my profile line. Understand that that's a good strategy to help you sort of push through that block. It gets you through the block to have the courage to do it, as opposed to not being able to do it anymore, giving up and just getting frustrated with things not going the way you want them to go. So if you see it, it's the first line is composure, second is pragmatism, third is resignation, fourth is burnout, fifth irony, and six is enforcement. Composure is going to be for the profiles 1, 4, and 1, 3. Pragmatism is going to be for the profiles 2, 4, 2, 5. Resignation is going to be for the profiles 3, 6, 3-5, burnout for the 4-1 and the 4-6, irony for the 5-1 and the 5-2, and enforcement is for the 6-3 and the 6-2. So the whole perspective of, like I said, the gate 30, it is a really important gate. It does show us a path to take when life gets in the way, basically, of how it works best for us and how we can sort of move through it. One thing that will be changing in the next month or so is that on May 10th, Neptune, which has pretty much been sitting in the gate 22 for a very, very long time, at least, well, all of 2020 and some of 2019 and some of 2021. It doesn't mean it'll be going to the gate 36 forever, because it will retrograde, but in 2022, it'll eventually go right into the gate 36. But we will have a taste of what the energy is all about when it moves into the gate 36. The gate 22, the one thing I remember saying about the gate 22 was that I thought that this idea of beauty would shift. It would, because Neptune has this ability to dissolve where it's at. So in other words, if this is all about beauty and how we sort of glam up the gate 22, that could be one part of it. There's a lot of different parts of every gate. And if we looked at it from that perspective, I think that if we can say that the 22 did dissolve that concept of what beauty was and how we care for ourselves. I mean, because the one thing is, most people said, is that they stopped wearing pants that had, waistbands, or everybody got into comfortable clothes, and nobody cared about as much about their makeup and their hair, and a lot of people let their hair grow, and men grew like beards that had always shaved themselves. So it was just this sort of relaxing on those that need to groom and make yourself attractive and beautiful, and just kind of allow yourself to be as you are, and express yourself exactly how you are, not really be as concerned about what other people think. And that really does play into the gate 22 energy. When you get into the gate 36, we look at this idea of dissolving that drive for the experience, dissolving that passion or that need to get something new all the time. And instead, are we going to start to look at things that matter a little bit more? So maybe before we had this idea of, oh, well, just jet setting here and doing that and doing this and always the next experience, as opposed to not really spending any time within that experience to actually see and feel what you're getting. There was always this hunger for some new experience, and is this going to dissolve that hunger, and I guess maybe satiate that hunger, so it's not as intense, where we are okay to have experiences that are more meaningful, as opposed to having an abundance of just everything to stimulate us, to give us some level of excitement. That's a perspective. Whether or not it comes like that, we will see. And that's the end of it for this week. If you stuck with me this long, thanks for listening, and I will be back again next week. I hope you have a great week. Take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.